Keep an eye on Ezri Konsa as well. This is a story that we've reported for quite some time on TalkSport. And the nuts and bolts of it are Ezri Konsa is one of Arsenal's leading choices for centre-back, if not the leading choice. Price has been an issue. Arsenal made an informal offer around the 30 to 35 million mark in the later part of the month of June. And then no further talks. They then came back in July after William Saliba's injury to once again test the water. And then finally, talks are expected to resume once again now. Aston Villa are well within their rights to be asking for somewhere in the region of 60, 65 million because we're in an inflated market and other centre-backs have already gone for in excess of 50 million, and Villa would no doubt have to think about funding a replacement, coupled with the fact that it's very late in the window. So there has been this big gulf in valuation for a matter of months now, but Arsenal are prepared to make a new offer and maybe get somewhere closer to Aston Villa's asking price. Jacobo Ramon is on Arsenal's list as well as another possible centre-back. There was never really that much in the Christian Romero links. He was discussed internally by Arsenal, but Tottenham had made it clear, at least when I've spoken to sources, they had no intention to sell to a North London rival unless some unbelievable astronomical figure was tabled, and I think we probably would have been talking about 100 million or more. So it was always going to be a bit of a non-starter, despite just some genuine appreciation from Arsenal.
I spoke yesterday about Ezri Konsa, the fact that he wasn't in that Villa squad. It was confirmed last night. Aston Villa played in the Super Cup. They lost 2-1 against PSG, and there was no Ezri Konsa at all in the team, which is kind of strange when you think about how big that game is. I know Unai Emery said he was giving them time off, but for a game of that magnitude, you'd still think he'd figure at some stage. He didn't. And are Arsenal going to make their move for him, maybe, I'd say probably next week. According to a lot of reports, the player would love a move to Arsenal. He's only got 2 years left on his contract, so Villa, they risk losing him for a lot cheaper if they don't sell him this season. The problem is, at the moment, is the valuation. They want 60 million for him. Arsenal have been looking to pay around about 30 million. They're not going to pay 30 million for Ezri Konsa. He played at the World Cup. He played well. He can play centre-back, right-back. Villa know what we need. It's going to cost more than 30 million. Arsenal will know that. But can they get a deal done? Can negotiations begin and they get a deal done? We know Arsenal's tactics, you don't hear about big negotiations going on and that. A lot of things are ticking along behind the scenes. But can they get this deal done for Ezri Konsa? The league starts next week. Or are they looking at other targets?
So Arsenal and Manchester United are in the mix. Do Everton want to let him go?
No, and they tried to renew his contract earlier in the window and the player said no, and I don't think that's going to change unless the window shuts and he's still there. So Manchester United do like Iliman Ndiaye, but he was a name quite early in the summer that was on their shortlist, and if Marcus Rashford stays, not a great deal that United can do, nor will they want to, because they're prepared to reintegrate Marcus Rashford as well. Arsenal could be one to watch, and interestingly, in the last few days, the player has rejected a move to Al Hilal to prioritise staying within the Premier League, staying which can be defined as either Everton this season and still new deal after the window shuts if he's there, or potentially being open to Arsenal. But he's only one of several options for Arsenal as they look to find their next target after failing to sign Vinny Jr.
Fabrizio Romano reporting yesterday that Arsenal very interested in a player from Atletico Madrid. And it's not Julian Alvarez, even though they're interested in Alvarez. This particular player is not Alvarez. It's Marc Pubill, the Spanish international. Plays for Atletico, centre-back, 23 years of age. Now, according to Fabrizio, he's been on Arsenal's list now for a very long time. Mikel Arteta, Berta, both admire him. Remember, Andrea Berta was at Atletico Madrid. We've been told that Arsenal have made contact with Atletico to try and understand how much he costs and his availability. Atletico do not want to sell, but They've just, they're just on the verge at the moment of buying Christian Romero from Spurs. What does that mean for Marc Pubill? Does that knock back his chances? Or does that mean, that they'll be willing to sell him to Arsenal if the right price comes in? Again, he's a centre-back who can also play at right-back. Looks like that's the kind of profile of player that Arsenal are looking for right now. Going to be an interesting one to watch. Marc Pubill of Atletico Madrid. As I said, they don't really want to sell him, but could things change? Now, another player that was unused yesterday in the Super Cup final, even though he was in the squad and was actually on the bench, was Bradley Barcola. Unused substitute. Didn't look that happy after the game when the other players were sort of celebrating the win. Listen, you're not going to be happy if you haven't played. But we know that he's surplus to requirements at PSG. He's not signed a new contract. They were like, sign a new contract or we're going to have to sell you. What's going to happen with him now? I think we're going to see soon some sort of decision made on Bradley Barcola. The two favourites to sign him, Liverpool, more favourites than Arsenal, and of course Arsenal. But will Arsenal make a move for Bradley Barcola? We know that we're looking for an upgrade on that left-hand side. Is that player Bradley Barcola, and how much will it, because it's the price, £130 million is what PSG want for him. Where is he going to end up? Going to be interesting. I think we got a strong indication by watching that game yesterday that he's definitely on his way out. But where? Decision time. And finally, Gabriel Martinelli, again, being linked with a move away. This time, reports that Galatasaray, the Turkish giants, have put in a bid for Gabriel Martinelli of £38 million. Now, Arsenal are not willing to sell Martinelli unless they get a replacement, unless they, were to get a Barcola or somebody like that. But this bid of £38 million has gone in for Martinelli. Quite frankly, for me, it's an insult. £38 million for Martinelli when you consider the current market for a guy who's just won the Premier League. I know he didn't score a lot of goals in the Premier League, but in the Champions League, only a couple of English players or players that play in the Premier League scored more than him. I think Haaland and Anthony Gordon. And Anthony's Gordon, half of his goal were penalties. Then it was Martinelli. Martinelli scored more Champions League goals than any other Arsenal player last season. Martinelli scored at the World Cup. Martinelli's a Brazil international, a regular now in that Brazilian team. If players like Ilian Ndiaye are going for, they're asking 75 million. Everton, Bradley Barcola, as I said, 100.